Welcome to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. This episode is brought to you by Authors Unite. Authors Unite provides you with all the resources you need to become a successful author. You can learn more about Authors Unite and join the free community at authorsunite.com. Now, let's jump into the episode. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. Today I have Joe Kashurba with us. He owns an industry-leading online marketing and web design agency whose client list includes some of the largest manufacturing companies and home service providers in the United States. So welcome to the show, Joe.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Of course, man. Very grateful to have you on the show. We'll dive into the first one. The first question I have for you, Joe, is what is the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
Yeah, I think it really is the story of me getting started in entrepreneurship. So the first thing I ever did entrepreneurial-wise was I had a group of friends who had a band in high school, and I took my video camera while their band was playing at this local restaurant and filmed them playing and sold videotapes to their parents. And it was my first entrepreneurial thing. But from that, I had this idea that I was going to do a video production business, learned how to build websites so I could build a website for that video production business I'm trying to start in high school. And what happened was nobody ever bought video production services, but people started coming out of the woodwork wanting web design services. And then I pivoted in that direction, and it turned into this whole web design and online marketing business that's been really successful. And I think the lesson there is that if you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to just get into the game, start trying some things, start a business, and see where it takes you and not try to figure it all out. Just get in the game.
I love that. And what's the most valuable piece of information that we should know that is within your expertise or industry?
I think the biggest thing is, I work with a lot of local businesses and regional businesses, sort of traditional businesses. And the thing that I want those businesses to know is that there's a large amount of opportunity on the internet that's still untapped. Most traditional businesses still just aren't using the internet. Maybe they're playing around with some online marketing or they have a website, but they're not really using it to really make massive gains in their business and become a real part of their business. And so I just want them to know that there's a huge opportunity out there that hasn't even been close to tapped yet.
I couldn't agree more. And what is your best piece of overall business advice, so not necessarily industry specific?
I think the one model that has been really valuable to me that has been absolutely critical has been the model of commitment and course correction. So that everything in business and really in life, you need to have a combination of commitment and course correction. So you need to commit to some certain business or some industry or something. You have some amount of focus and commitment, and then you need to course correct within that and try different things. And if you have the course correction without any sort of commitment, then you'll just be taking random shots in the dark and never actually make any momentum. And if you're so committed that you never course correct, then you'll never make the adjustments necessary to succeed. So in all areas of life, I think you need to always be looking for, I need to have something I'm committed to, but then within that commitment, I need to be doing some course correction.
And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
I think it would be the biggest in terms of business. I would tell my younger self to start learning about sales and marketing sooner. I kept hearing from Robert Kiyosaki and lots of different people that you need to learn sales and marketing to be successful in business, and I resisted that for a long time, and it probably set me back in business by about 10 years.
And in your opinion, what is the key to happiness?
What is the key to happiness? I think the best thing that I've ever heard on that would be Tony Robbins talks about sort of it's just the idea of progress and growth, and that as long as you're moving forward and you're going in a direction, then that's probably the best way to make sure you're happy is that you actually have something you're working towards in the direction you're going.
And what is the best book that you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from that?
Probably the best business book, the one I always recommend to people, is a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And it basically talks about the idea that we all have an identity or a self-image, and you can't really achieve anything in the real world until you can see yourself doing it in your mind. And he talks about sort of intervening at the self-image and identity level and creating a new self-image that's the person you want to be. And it's just an absolutely critical book for anybody that wants to achieve anything, because that self-image and identity piece is so important.
And what is your favorite quote and why?
What's my favorite quote? Let's see. That's a good question. My favorite quote.
And it can be like a mantra too, or like it doesn't have to be word for word.
Yeah, my favorite quote would be that there's, I had a period of time where I was really into Ayn Rand and read Atlas Shrugged and some of her books. And one of the characters in there says, is talking to another entrepreneur, another business person, and says it's we who move the world. And for some reason that line, it's we who move the world, is always something that's really inspired me. And I always thought of myself as an entrepreneur that was actually having some sort of an impact on the world, even if it was relatively small. It's we who move the world.
I love that, man. Thank you so much for coming on. The last question I have for you, man, before we let you go, is where is the best place for people to find you online?
Absolutely. You can either go to, on the web design and online marketing side, you can go to Kashurbawebdesign.com. And if you're someone who's a web designer or who's interested in growing a freelance business or an agency business, you can go to joekashurba.com and learn more about some of the consulting and training I offer for web designers and agency owners there.
Perfect, man. Thank you again for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.